Hello, welcome to Petrol Media. I'm Terrence, and today it's a quick one, just a quick conversation about used gear and where to purchase used gear. There's a ton of websites and places where you can find some really nice gems. However, the ones that I found that were most reliable were places that had return policies in place that secure you in many different ways. There are a couple of caveats and things that I consider outside of them, but I'm going to discuss the ones that I truly respect and appreciate because they have helped me recoup most of my old recording setup that I lost when I decided to step away from the music production thing a couple of years ago, and I'm happy that I'm able to retrieve just to get back on track. Before we get started into that, if you want to support my channel, I have a ton of sample packs and links to items down below in the description. Feel free to click on a couple of those things and check it out, or purchase some packs from my website. All of those things help me out. I really appreciate it. Now let's get into the video. Now, as I look around the room, there's quite a few pieces of gear that I've actually bought used to get things rolling. And for starters, some of those key items are the SSL 12 that I have in conjunction with the Behringer ADAT that I use to get 8 in and 8 out for the MPC 5000. This also includes the Roland Phantom, the 1000, and the 5000. This also includes the 3 Cali Audio LP8s that I have. 2 of them are set up right now, the other one's behind me on the shelf. Originally it was a backup, but now with the new setup that we're looking at, I'm gonna be doing a surround setup. So that's when I'm gonna be using that one as a center speaker with the other ones around it. I'm gonna pick up 2 more for surround. Let's discuss the places that you can go to get things for great deals. One of the great places to get a great deal is a pawn shop. Mainly because most pawn shop owners have no clue what they have when it comes to music production gear. Yes, they know the guitars and the keyboards and things like that. When you start diving into drum machines and things of that nature, a lot of times you can stumble upon a deal because they're looking at it like, I don't know really what this is. You know, I got it from the guy for like 200 bucks. I'm gonna sell it for 400 bucks and it's like a $3,000 device. So pawn shops are great for getting those deals where you're gonna have to accept the fact that whatever you paid for it, that is it. If it comes with the good and bad, you have to deal with that. If there's an issue, you deal with that. And that's not such a bad thing because usually they have like a 1 or 2 day warranty thing where you can return it if something's wrong. But rarely are you gonna find a scenario where there's something wrong because they usually check the item when it comes in just to make sure that it's in working order, and they tend to lowball you when you sell it to them in the first place. So there's usually this huge window of opportunity to take advantage of that. Beyond the pawn shop, the other place where you can take advantage of things is Facebook Marketplace. Facebook Marketplace is great mainly because you do have some buyer protection. It doesn't protect you in the sense of like you can return it, but it does protect you in the sense of if the person is scamming you or sends you a box that's full of bricks and you bought a Phantom, but the box came and it was full of bricks, you can get your money back. And that's why I lean towards the other options in this equation, because the money back guarantee within a certain window of time is always helpful. But with Facebook Marketplace, you do also stumble upon those gems. I've found a couple that I'm looking at right now and I'm just watching and watching and watching. I'm a very patient buyer when it comes to Facebook Marketplace because there's a lot of what I'm looking for available, so I'm not that stressed if I don't grab the first deal. I actually got a deal on a used Blue Microphone ball, the little snowball, but the black version of it. My wife currently uses for what she's doing with her office, and I got it for like 20 bucks. And those things, I think they retailed for like $100 back then when they came out, and it's a really good mic. It's in great condition, it's super durable, so don't really have to worry about anything going wrong with it. So she got a great deal, I spent 20 bucks, everybody's happy. So Marketplace is a really great place to look for items with some kind of buyer protection. And mind you, a lot of this video is about buyer protection. It's one of those things where I've been bitten on both sides, where I've sold stuff and someone claimed I didn't send it and then they stole it essentially, and then they got their money back. So I'm talking more so from the buyer standpoint of how to protect yourself, not so much the seller, because the seller, it's always a little bit rougher, unfortunately, but there are ways to get around all of that stuff. That way you make sure you're buying something that's good for you and you don't have to worry about it. That takes me to the first thing, eBay. eBay is great because in conjunction with PayPal, you have that buyer protection. I think you get like a 5 to 7 day guarantee where once you get the item, if you're not satisfied, you can return it and get your money back. That is a nice caveat that eBay has for you. But the downside again is eBay has been around for so long and there's so much, scamming going on that it's really hard sometimes to find a deal that makes 100% sense. It's kind of one of those scenarios where you have to just take it with a grain of salt and jump at it if you really think it's a great idea, or weigh the options on it. But a lot of times I use eBay to find like little parts to replace things, like replace knobs and whatnot, rather than buy the whole machine, just because I found much better options that give me better buyer protection. That gets me to Reverb. Reverb is great. I have loved my buying experience with Reverb. I think if I'm correct, I get a 7-day back guarantee. I bought the SSL 12 and the Behringer ADAT as a packaged bundle for about $400 or $500, and it was a great experience with the guy. I was able to research his seller history before making the purchase. I was able to communicate with the seller and get more details on the item. We had a quick 5-minute conversation via text before I said, all right, I'm gonna pull the trigger and make this happen. And if anything happened when the item arrived and I checked the box and I said, you know what, this is not great or whatever, I could return it and not have any fear of purchasing something that was a problem. And honestly, it was a great buy. He even threw in a couple extra cables. Overall, great experience with Reverb. I would highly recommend buying through Reverb, and I would buy again through Reverb. Now we get to the one that's a little bit more controversial because, again, as you saw in my last video about Guitar Center, their inventory for used items is kind of weird when it comes to the store. However, I think what's happening is they have about 2 or 3 distribution centers around the nation, and I think the items you're buying used come out of those distribution centers. So maybe that's the reason why the stores don't reflect what you see with the site. Anyone in the comment that works at Guitar Center, I would love to get some feedback on that, because I do highly recommend buying from places like Guitar Center for used gear, because Guitar Center offers a 45-day money-back guarantee. If you don't like the item, or if you have a problem with this used gear, you can return it and get your money back, or return it and they will find you a replacement if you do it within 45 days. I had an issue with my MPC 5000, the first one I got, and I couldn't get it to work right. Not because the software was an issue, but there were some hardware problems. And I got frustrated with it, and I gave the guy a call, and he was like, no problem, bring it back in. I had it for like 25 days, and he was like, absolutely return it to us. Stand by for a second. I had a kiddo wake up from nap time, so, I had to improvise. It is what it is. Guitar Center did a great job dealing with the MPC 5000. My issue initially was the jog wheel wasn't spinning when I was trying to basically maneuver the device. And I think, ironically, it is why the person sold it in the first place to Guitar Center. But it really came down to the fact that the design of the jog wheel on the 5000 has a lip around it. And if you don't sit it down on top of the encoder correctly, it sits up too high and it slams into the case, which makes it almost impossible to turn, and it gets frustrating. The second thing was the power supply failed within like those first 20 days of me owning it, and I didn't know why it failed. I did some research into the power supply and figured out what was really going on there. So I ended up deciding to say, you know what, rather than me sit here and try to figure out how to fix this unit, I'm just gonna tell him I want another one. And when I called him up, the guy was like, yeah, no problem, I can replace it for you. Let's just go ahead and do that. So that was a great experience with Guitar Center. And the second one came within a week, and that gave me another 45 days to evaluate that one. Overall, I evaluated 2 5000s for 65 days in total, and I was very happy with the purchase for the second one, so I kept it. The same thing was done with the MPC 1000. The 1000 was the one I bought before the 5000, as I was going back on this journey of buying hardware to do production. And it was the first one I bought. Absolutely no issues with it, none whatsoever. So picked it up, had it for 45 days, no problem, kept it. The Roland Phantom was a little bit trickier. I waited a couple of weeks to buy that one from Guitar Center, and when it came, some of the things I was a little frustrated about were like the corners of the case, because Guitar Center, this goes back to the issues with the way they handle their photo taking. They didn't showcase some of the cracks I saw on the plastic. On the Phantom X, the side panels are plastic. The main case is metal. So this is metal, this is plastic. The part around the modulator wheel is also plastic, but overall the entire case itself is actually metal. And I like metal casings on my devices because it's a lot more durable. In this case, same thing. What I was frustrated with the Phantom was when it came, it seemed like they didn't do a great job packing the device. So I ended up having to take it apart when it showed up and really dive in to make sure everything was working. I used to work in a music store. I'm also a certified audio engineer. I've had experience doing soldering and things of that nature. So I know how to read schematics and take a look at things and make sure everything is working correctly, which is what I went ahead and did. And there was nothing wrong with the Phantom physically. So I wasn't really too upset. I also didn't really feel like going through taking it back to the store and going through the whole process, although I know they could have found me another one. I was actually pretty happy with it. And that goes back to the idea of knowing that I can test this thing out for 45 days and decide if it's the right thing for me or not. And in this case, it was the right thing for me, and I was fine with things. I mean, it's from 2005. You know, I would have been shocked if the plastic was 100% perfect, which can happen. It's not like it can't happen, but I'm not that upset that it was, you know, in its current state. And I can't determine if it was because of shipping or it was like that when they got it, and maybe that's why the price was down where it was. Can't really fault it too much. My bigger thing is Guitar Center, you do need to take better pictures of items because that would actually help people make better decisions when it comes to purchasing. Maybe your sales for used gear would pick up if you did better pictures and at least give a proper description of the item. It's not that hard. You can copy paste from the actual website and add some blurbs about the condition that you got it in. That's all you need to do. Better pictures, better description, a little bit of information about the condition of the device. Everything will start selling a whole lot faster. That's why I like to buy from places like Guitar Center. I know that Zounds and Sweetwater have those same scenarios as well. I don't know how long their return is or if there is any because I've never actually purchased from them. But this is the scenario that I prefer when it comes to buying used gear. Not a huge fan of buying things directly from a person unless I've really done my research on that person, because when I go to buy something from Marketplace, I definitely look into the person a little bit more. I look at their details of all of the different items they've already sold. If I look on your page and I see you're selling an MPC or a keyboard or a synthesizer that I like, but everything else on your page might be shoes or t-shirts or light bulbs, I don't know if I should buy this from you. I might consider buying it from you if it's a super low price for what that thing is, because then I understand that this person's just trying to get it out of their place. Like, there's a lady right now who's selling an MPC 4000 for an insanely low price for what it is, but on her site she's only selling that and shoes. So, you know, most likely she's just trying to unload it. Might have been a bad boyfriend scenario. I don't know. But anyway, somebody's going to find that deal on Facebook Marketplace and they're going to take advantage of it. But it wasn't in the best shape in the first place. It's pretty rough on its case. So it could easily just be that it was sitting for a long time and she's just trying to unload it. Those are the scenarios where going directly to a seller is not a bad idea, and you basically take it with a grain of salt and accept that you went into this deal knowing that it could be in any state. And you'll get some gems. Sometimes you get gems, sometimes you don't. Sometimes it's a dud, but you gotta roll the dice. But I would highly recommend buying from Reverb, buying from Guitar Center, Sweetwater, or Zounds for used gear, mainly because you get buyer protection. You get return money and you get an evaluation period. those things, if you don't have those three things when you're buying a high-end purchase like these, I don't think it's a good idea. So that's my 2 cents on that. If you like what I've been talking about, like, share, subscribe, and I'm gonna get back to this guy. I think he's finally back to sleep. He was just looking for me in the house a moment ago. He was asleep. So I said, let me go knock out this video real quick. But it was something that's on my mind for a minute because I had such a great experience buying from Guitar Center and buying from Reverb that I wanted to speak on it. And I think it came up because I have been selling off some of my drone gear. Not because I'm getting out of the drone hobby or the business of that. I just don't currently need the items that I have. And I will replace them in the near future, but right now at this moment I don't really need them. So I'm taking a little bit of a hiatus from it. But the whole experience of trying to sell things directly and dealing with people trying to haggle and whatnot, I'm not here for that. Here it is, here's the price, take it for what it's worth. So same deal when it comes to, production gear. You want to be able to just make the purchase and not have to stress about the purchase. And the less you have to do that, the better. So I'll catch you next time. Like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you later.